Lily won't be the flower girl anymore, my mother said, as if she were telling me the soup had gone cold. I stared at her on the garden path, roses on the trellis, music drifting from the ballroom. She didn't lose a basket, Mom. She lost 4 months of believing adults keep their promises. My sister stole my daughter's flower girl role and labeled us family instability on the seating chart. I didn't scream. I saved every file, let my father speak, and watched her old money in-laws freeze in their seats. That night, silence finally chose my side. My name is Amelia Parker. I was 33 that summer, living west of Chicago with my husband Ryan and our 6-year-old daughter Lily. She still believed people meant what they said if they smiled while saying it. I used to believe that too. In the Monroe family, belief was handed out unevenly. My older sister Vanessa got the kind that shone. She had the perfect hair, the easy laugh, the thank you notes written before anyone asked. Relatives looked at her and said, "That girl is going places." I was the other one. Not unloved. That would have been easier. I was included, praised when convenient, and corrected when my feelings made someone uncomfortable. If Vanessa cried, she was overwhelmed. If I cried, I was dramatic. If Vanessa needed something, the family rearranged itself. My mother, Diane, never raised her voice to win. Her favorite line sounded reasonable. "Let it go. Don't make this harder. Your sister has a lot on her plate." They seemed harmless until you noticed they always landed on me. My father, Robert, was gentler. Dad loved me. Dad looked guilty when Mom dismissed me. But guilt is not protection, and silence is not kindness when it leaves the same person alone every time. Vanessa was 37 when she got engaged to Grant Ellison, a polished man from an old New England family. Their wedding was set for Willowmere Lake Inn in Vermont with white flowers, a chapel by the water, and a rehearsal dinner where every fork placement felt like a test. For Vanessa, it was not just a wedding. It was proof that she belonged in a higher circle. Proof that the golden daughter had landed where she believed she deserved to be. 4 months before that weekend, she asked my Lily to be her flower girl. Lily glowed for days. She practiced walking down our hallway with both hands around a little plastic basket. Ryan clapped from the sofa. I laughed, and for a while, I let myself hope. Maybe Vanessa meant it. Maybe my daughter would be family to her, not decoration. Maybe this time, my mother would not ask me to shrink so my sister could sparkle. But standing on that stone path in Vermont, I understood what I should have understood years earlier. In my family, peace had always meant someone else got protected. And most of the time, that someone was never me. Vanessa called on a Tuesday evening while I was packing Lily's lunchbox. Her name lit up my phone, and I almost let it ring out. My sister did not call without a reason. She announced things, requested things, or corrected how I had handled them. That night, her voice was honey. "Amelia, I was thinking," she said. "Grant and I would love for Lily to be our flower girl." Across the kitchen, Lily was coloring a purple horse with orange wings. Ryan was fixing a cabinet hinge. "You mean it?" I asked. Vanessa laughed softly. "Of course. She's adorable. She'll look perfect in the photos." That sentence should have warned me. Perfect in the photos. Not precious to us, not family. But Lily had already heard her name. "Mommy, what photos?" I covered the phone and told her Aunt Vanessa wanted her in the wedding. Lily froze, then slid off the chair so fast her crown rolled away. "I get to walk? In a real wedding?" Vanessa heard the squeal and laughed, as if my daughter's joy made the idea prettier. She promised to send details later. Colors, timing, dress style. Nothing fussy, just classic. When I hung up, Lily ran to Ryan. Daddy, I have a job. Ryan crawled out from under the sink. A job? Do I need to check your resume? She put both hands on her hips. I'm a flower girl. He nodded gravely. That is major responsibility, Miss Parker. From that night on, our hallway became a chapel aisle. Lily carried a little Easter basket from the basement, walking from the laundry room to the living room with her chin lifted. If she moved too quickly, she started over. If she giggled, she covered her mouth and whispered, "Again." Ryan sat on the sofa and clapped softly each time she reached him. Once, he stood and bowed. Lily told him wedding guests did not bow in America, and he apologized to the professional. For weeks, that was our ritual: dinner, bath, pajamas, practice. Lily asked whether Aunt Vanessa would cry happy tears, whether Grant would know she had trained, whether Grandma Diane would be proud. I answered yes because I wanted yes to be true. One night, after Lily went to bed, I found a faint scuff on the baseboard where her shoe had brushed the turn. Ryan saw me touching it and said, "We can paint that." I shook my head. Not yet. It was just a mark on a wall, but to me it looked like evidence. Proof that a little girl had trusted the adults around her. Proof that for once, my family had given my child something instead of taking something from me. I did not know then that Vanessa had not made a promise. She had borrowed my daughter's happiness for the shape of a perfect wedding. Vanessa sent the instructions 3 days later. Ivory, not bright white. Tea length, no glitter. No bows larger than a fist. Shoes soft enough for stone paths. Hair simple. Something sweet, but not distracting. I read the message twice at our kitchen table while Lily leaned against my arm, trying to peek. "Does Aunt Vanessa like sparkles?" she asked. "Not for this wedding, apparently." Lily nodded as if Vanessa had issued a royal decree. "Then I won't sparkle. I'll be elegant." Ryan looked up from his coffee. Elegant is a big word before second grade. "I can handle it," she said. That Saturday, I took her shopping in Naperville. The first store had dresses that looked like cupcakes. The second had one with itchy lace that made Lily scratch her neck before the zipper was halfway up. At the third store, tucked between communion dresses and junior bridesmaid gowns, we found it. Ivory satin, tiny sleeves, a skirt that moved when Lily turned but did not puff out too much. The price tag read $96, and I remember thinking it was more than I planned to spend on one child's dress, but less than the cost of breaking her heart. In the fitting room, Lily stood on the little platform and stared at herself. "Do I look like I belong?" she whispered. The question hit a place in me I had spent years covering. I smiled before my face could betray me. "You look beautiful." "That's not what I asked." I knelt beside her, smoothing the hem. "Yes, sweetheart, you belong." She steadied herself again, then did one careful turn. "Will Aunt Vanessa be proud of me?" "Yes," I said. And because children can hear doubt even through walls, I made myself sound certain. We bought soft white shoes, a thin cardigan in case Vermont turned cool, and 2 hair clips, a silver star and a small white daisy. Lily held the bag all the way home like it contained glass. That evening, she hung the dress on her closet door. Before bed, she looked at it twice. I watched from the hallway, remembering another girl in another house, learning early that Vanessa's needs came first. When we were young, Vanessa got the last-minute rides, the better bedroom for guests to admire, the family stories told with sparkle. I got praise for being easy. Easy is a dangerous thing to call a child. It teaches her to disappear politely. Ryan came up behind me and rested his hand on my shoulder. "You're worried," he said. "I'm trying not to be." "About Vanessa?" "About myself," I admitted. "I keep wanting this to mean she sees us." He looked toward Lily's room, where the ivory dress glowed in the soft nightlight. "Then let's hope," he said. "But if hope turns into hurt, we don't pretend it didn't." I nodded, though part of me still wanted to believe pretending would never be necessary. For Lily, the dress was proof. For me, it was a quiet prayer that my family would not turn my daughter into another lesson I had to survive. 3 weeks before the wedding, Vanessa had dinner with the Ellisons at a private dining room in Boston. I was not there, but I learned enough later to imagine it too clearly. The long table, the white linen, the waiters who appeared before anyone had to look for them. Patricia Ellison seated with her pearls in calm posture, the kind of woman who did not need to raise her voice because rooms had learned to listen. The Ellisons were old New England money, not loud money, not yacht in every photo money. Their wealth lived in lake houses, foundation boards, museum memberships, and last names people recognized without admitting they recognized them. Vanessa wanted that world badly. She had always known how to become what a room admired. At my parents' church events, she was gracious. At office parties, clever. Around wealthy people, she turned polished enough to reflect their own manners back at them. That night, Grant sat beside her, proud but relaxed. He loved her. I believe that. He had no reason yet to understand how much of Vanessa's charm depended on someone else paying the emotional bill. During dessert, Patricia mentioned her granddaughter Harper. "Harper has been talking about Flower Girl since Easter," she said with a small smile. "She keeps practicing with a basket in my hallway." What it should have been a sweet family comment, nothing more. Grant laughed. "Mom, don't start recruiting children." Patricia lifted one hand. "I'm not. I only meant if there's any little role that suits her, she would be delighted. If not, she will survive." That was all. No demand, no insult to Lily, no old money order wrapped in velvet. But Vanessa heard opportunity. A 5-year-old Ellison walking down the aisle would look perfect to Patricia. It would make Vanessa seem generous toward Grant's family. It would shift the wedding picture toward the people she was marrying into, not the family she had spent years outshining. So while everyone else moved on to coffee, Vanessa began rearranging the truth in her head. Lily became too young to care, and I became too emotional to tell early. Harper became the better choice, and Vanessa became, as always, the woman just trying to keep everyone happy. Later that night, she did not call me. She did not call Ryan. She did not ask whether Lily had practiced, whether the dress was bought, whether my daughter counted the days. She texted my mother, "Mom, please manage Amelia before she walks in. She turns small things into emotional emergencies." There it was, the sentence that explained my whole childhood in 12 words. My daughter's promise was a small thing. My pain was an emergency. Vanessa's image was the only thing that counted as real. Diane answered within minutes. "Of course, sweetheart. Focus on your wedding. I'll handle your sister." That was how easily it happened. No screaming, no villain speech. Just a mother and daughter deciding that my child's heart was less important than a seamless weekend. Vanessa did not change the wedding plan that night. She changed the story. So when the damage arrived, she could pretend it had always been reasonable. My mother did not think of herself as cruel. That was part of what made her so hard to fight. Cruel people can be named. My mother wrapped harm in concern, tied it with ribbon, and called it peace. After Vanessa's text came in, Diane sat at her breakfast nook with her phone beside a half-finished cup of Earl Grey. I know that because Dad told me later. He said she went very still, the way she did when she was arranging something no one else was allowed to question. Robert Monroe had been married to my mother for 39 years. He knew her moods the way some men know weather. He could tell when she was irritated by how carefully she folded a napkin. He could tell when she was nervous by how softly she spoke. "What's wrong?" he asked. "Wedding details," she said. That should have been his cue to press. Instead, he nodded and looked back at the newspaper. That was Dad's weakness. He confused not interfering with being fair. In our family, he often stood in doorways while Mom made decisions that hurt me, then later gave me a sad look as if sympathy could undo surrender. Diane texted Vanessa back. "Of course, sweetheart. Focus on your wedding. I'll handle your sister." Handle. Not call. Not explain. Not apologize. Handle. As if I were luggage left in the wrong hallway. From that moment, my mother built her case. Lily was only 6. Children recovered quickly. Vanessa had pressure from the Ellisons. A wedding weekend was delicate. I was strong enough to absorb disappointment. That last one had followed me my whole life. When Vanessa forgot my birthday dinner at 22, Mom said I was old enough not to need a fuss. When Vanessa borrowed money and never paid it back, Mom said I had a steadier job. When Vanessa cried over a breakup, the whole house dimmed around her grief. When I cried over anything, Mom lowered her voice and said, "Amelia, don't make this harder." Peace in the Moreau family always had my fingerprints on the shovel. Diane could have called that night. She could have said, "I'm sorry, this is awkward, but something has changed." She could have given me time to protect Lily gently, at home, away from chandeliers and strangers. But time would have given me a voice. So she waited. She waited while Lily practiced, while I bought shoes, while Ryan asked me whether I trusted Vanessa, while the ivory dress hung on a closet door like a promise. A week before the wedding, Dad noticed Mom printing an updated seating chart. "Why are the Parkers over there?" he asked, pointing to a table farther from the Ellisons. Diane slid the paper into a folder. "It balances the room." "Amelia won't mind?" "She never does, once she thinks about everyone else." Dad told me later that sentence stayed with him, but at the time, he let it pass. That was how the damage moved toward us. Not like a storm, but like a table being quietly set before guests arrived. On the morning of the rehearsal dinner, Lily stood in front of the bathroom mirror with 2 hair clips in her palms. One was a silver star. The other was a white daisy. She studied them like a judge deciding a case. "The star's fancy," she said, "but the daisy makes more sense." Ryan leaned against the doorframe, already dressed in a navy suit jacket. Strong legal argument. Lily ignored him with great dignity. A flower girl should have flowers. So the daisy won. I clipped it gently above her left ear, careful not to pull. Her ivory dress hung on the closet door behind us, steamed the night before, covered in a garment bag for the drive. Lily wore leggings and a sweatshirt for travel, but she kept looking at the bag as if the dress might disappear if she stopped guarding it. Ryan loaded the SUV with the kind of quiet efficiency I loved him for. Dress shoes, cardigan, wedding card, snacks, stain wipes, Lily's little travel pillow, and a backup pair of tights because he knew 6-year-olds and white fabric were not natural allies. I stood in the kitchen, watching him check the trunk twice. "You're doing that thing," he said. "What thing?" "They're getting quiet in a way that isn't quiet." I tried to smile. "I just want tonight to go smoothly." Ryan closed the trunk and came to me. "If it stops being safe for you or Lily, we leave. No speeches, no permission." The words settled something in me. Not enough to erase the old worry, but enough to let me breathe. The drive from the airport hotel to Willamere Lake Inn took us along narrow Vermont roads lined with maples and old stone walls. The lake flashed between trees like broken glass catching sun. Lily pressed her face to the window, narrating everything she saw. "Do you think Aunt Vanessa has the real basket already?" "Probably," I said. "Do you think Grant knows I practiced?" "I'm sure he'll be impressed." "Did flower girls walk before brides or after brides?" "Before." She nodded, filing that away with professional seriousness. By the time the inn appeared, even Ryan went quiet. Willowmere looked like something built to be remembered. White clapboard walls, deep green shutters, a chapel near the water. Gardens trimmed so neatly they seemed almost unreal. Guests moved across the lawn in linen and pearls, laughing with the softness of people who never expected to be refused. Lily gasped, "Mommy, it looks like a movie." I squeezed her hand. "It does." Ryan parked near the gravel lot by the side entrance. Before he turned off the engine, my phone buzzed. "Mom, come around the garden path before you come in. Don't bring Lily. Let Ryan wait with her." I read it once, then again. Ryan saw my face change. "What did she say?" I handed him the phone. His jaw tightened just slightly. From the back seat, Lily lifted the garment bag with both hands. "Can I put on my dress now?" I looked at my daughter, at the daisy in her hair, at the faith shining all over her face. "Give me a minute, sweetheart," I said. "Daddy's going to help you check your shoes." Then I stepped out of the car and started toward the garden path, already knowing that whatever waited there had not come to bless us. My mother was waiting beside a wrought iron bench under a trellis of pale roses. Diane Monroe looked exactly as she always did when she was about to hurt me for someone else's comfort. Soft blue dress, pearl earrings, hair smooth at the temples. Hands folded in front of her as if she were greeting guests after church. "Amelia," she said, "thank you for coming around. What's going on?" She glanced toward the inn, then back at me. "There's been a small change in the ceremony." Small. That word had done so much damage in my family. "What change?" She inhaled carefully. "Harper Ellison is going to be the flower girl." For a second, the garden sound sharpened. A bird in the hedge. Laughter from the terrace. Gravel shifting under someone's heel. Everything became clear except my mother's face. "Harper," I repeated. "Grant's niece. Patricia's granddaughter. She flew in from Boston, and apparently she has been very excited." "Well, my daughter has been excited for 4 months. Mom's mouth tightened, not with guilt, but inconvenience. "Lily will still be included. She can wear her dress. She can come to dinner. She just won't carry the basket." I stared at her. "Why didn't Vanessa call me?" "She's been overwhelmed." "Overwhelmed people still know how to use a phone." "Amelia." There it was. My name. It said like a warning label. I stepped closer. "Did Vanessa know before today?" Mom looked away for half a breath too long. My stomach sank. "She thought telling you earlier would create unnecessary tension," Mom said. "And honestly, you do tend to feel things very deeply." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the sentence was so clean, so practiced, so perfectly Diane. My pain was not pain. It was a personality flaw. "Lily practiced every night," I said. "She chose her hair clip this morning because flower girls should have flowers." Mom softened her face, the way she did when she wanted to seem kind without changing anything. "She's 6. Children move on." "No, adults move on because they're not the ones standing there with empty hands." Her eyes cooled. "This is Vanessa's wedding. Your sister is under enormous pressure. You are a mother now, Amelia. Act like one." The words hit harder than if she had shouted. act like one. As if protecting my child made me childish. As if a good mother swallowed her daughter's heartbreak so a bride could smile in photographs. I did not answer. If I opened my mouth, years of buried things might come out, and I knew exactly what Mom would do with that. She would point to my shaking voice and call it proof. So I turned and walked back. Ryan was crouched beside Lily near the SUV, helping her count smooth white stones in the gravel. He stood the moment he saw me. "What happened?" he asked quietly. I could barely say it. "They replaced her. Harper is the flower girl. Vanessa knew." His face changed, not loudly, not dramatically, but completely. Lily looked up. "Mommy?" I knelt in front of her and took both of her small hands. They were warm from clutching the garment bag. "Sweetheart," I said, forcing my voice to stay steady. "There's been a change in the wedding. Another little girl is going to carry the flower basket." Lily blinked. The world did not end loudly. It ended in the way her smile forgot what it was doing. "Did I walk wrong?" she asked. "The slow part?" Ryan turned his head away. I held her hands tighter. "No, baby. You walked perfectly. This is not because of anything you did." She looked down at her white shoes in the open bag. "Can I still wear my dress?" "Yes." "Can I still go inside?" "Yes." She nodded like she was trying to be brave enough for all three of us. Then she asked, very softly, "Will Aunt Vanessa be mad if I'm sad?" And that was the moment something in me stopped trying to keep peace. We walked into Willamere Lake Inn like a family carrying glass. Ryan held Lily's dress bag over one arm and kept his other hand near her shoulder. I held Lily's fingers, feeling how tightly she gripped me whenever a stranger smiled too brightly in our direction. The dining room was beautiful in the way expensive places often are. Cream tablecloths, low candles, polished silver, white hydrangeas, and crystal glasses catching the last gold of evening from the lake. A pianist played something soft enough to be forgotten. Vanessa stood near the windows in an ivory rehearsal dress, surrounded by bridesmaids and women from Grant's side. Her hair fell in loose waves. Her laugh was light. She looked like the kind of bride magazines called effortless, though I knew nothing about Vanessa was ever effortless. Then she saw Lily. For half a second, her smile thinned. Not guilt, not regret. I knew that look. It was irritation that the problem my mother had promised to manage had walked into the room wearing a daisy clip. Lily saw Harper before I could guide her another way. Harper Ellison stood by Patricia, holding a small woven flower basket with satin ribbon around the handle. She was tiny, blonde, and completely innocent. She swung the basket gently against her dress, unaware that my daughter had practiced for months to hold it. Lily stopped. Her eyes went to the basket, then to her own empty hands. I felt her fingers curl into my palm. "Mommy," she whispered, "that's the real one?" I bent close. "Yes, sweetheart." Harper smiled at her. Lily tried to smile back. That effort nearly broke me. During dinner, Vanessa gave a speech with the grace of someone who had never doubted the room would forgive her. She thanked Grant, Patricia, the Ellison family, and my parents for always believing she deserved beautiful things. I sat there with my napkin folded in my lap, listening to my sister be praised for a version of herself built from other people's silence. Across from me, Ryan cut Lily's pasta into smaller pieces, even though she could do it herself. It gave him something to do with his anger. Lily ate quietly, asked for bread, and told an older Ellison cousin about a frog she had once seen near our garage. She did not cry. She did not complain. She was so well behaved that I wanted to stand up and ask every adult in that room if they understood the price of such good manners. If you are listening and you have ever watched someone you love get pushed aside for another person's perfect image, leave a like and tell me in the comments what Amelia should do. Stay with this story, because what happens after this dinner will make the entire Monroe family face the truth they tried to hide. When the main course ended, I excused myself. I did not want to cry at the table. I did not want my mother to tilt her head and say, "See, this is why we couldn't tell her sooner." In the restroom, I turned on the faucet and pressed cold water to my wrists. My face in the mirror looked calm, but my eyes did not. Behind that door, I finally understood something. They had not counted on me being strong. They had counted on me being obedient. I was drying my hands when Jenna Whitaker stepped out of the far stall. She recognized me first. Black dress, headset wire behind one ear, tablet pressed to her chest. The wedding planner. The woman hired to keep every candle lit, every chair straight, every ugly thing covered with flowers. "Mrs. Parker," she said, "I didn't realize you were in here." "It's fine." Her smile was careful. "I'm sorry about the processional update. I thought the revised email had gone to you weeks ago." Weeks ago. The words landed like ice. "You knew weeks ago?" I asked. Her fingers tightened around the tablet. There were several versions. "Jenna," I said, keeping my voice even, "did Vanessa change Lily's role weeks ago?" She swallowed. "You should speak with the bride." That was answer enough. "I never received an email," I said. "My daughter practiced until this morning." For a moment, her polished expression cracked. "I'm sorry," she said, softer now. Then she left before honesty could become a liability. I stood under the lights, feeling the truth take shape. This had not been a last-minute favor for Harper. It had been planned, hidden, and delivered when I had no time to protect Lily from it. My phone buzzed. "Dad. East porch. Now, please." I crossed the side hallway and stepped onto the porch. The lake had turned dark blue, and the lantern shook in the wind. Dad stood with both hands gripping the railing. "What happened?" I asked. He held out his phone. "Your mother left her messages open on the table. I saw your name. Then I saw Lily's." On the screen was Vanessa's text. "Mom, please manage Amelia before she walks in. She turns small things into emotional emergencies." Small things. My daughter's hands around a plastic basket. The daisy clip she chose because flower girls should have flowers. The ivory dress she had guarded like treasure. The question she asked me in the parking lot. Did I walk wrong? Dad looked older than he had an hour ago. Ashamed. "I should have stopped this," he said. I wanted to ask where that courage had been when I was 10, 16, 25. I wanted to hand him every memory Diane had softened until it sounded like my fault. But his face already held the answer. He had been there. He had only been quiet. "You saw what she wrote," I said. He nodded. And I finally saw what I've been pretending not to see for years. The porch door opened behind us, letting out music, then closed again. "Silence is not neutral," he said. "Not when it protects the person doing harm." I held his phone and felt the old Monroe family story crack down the middle. Dad reached into the inside pocket of his jacket and took out a small blue velvet pouch. For a moment, I thought my mind had misunderstood the shape of it. Then he opened the drawstring, and the porch lantern caught a soft gleam of gold. Grandma Ruth's locket. It hung from a strand of small pearls, old-fashioned and delicate, with a tiny clasp that had always been stubborn. When I was a girl, Grandma Ruth wore it to Christmas Eve service, Easter brunch, and every family dinner she considered important. She used to let me touch the smooth gold face with one finger and say, "Careful, Amelia. Old things remember who holds them kindly." I had not seen it since her funeral. My throat tightened. "Why do you have that?" Dad placed it in my palm. "Because it was never supposed to be on Vanessa." The cold metal warmed against my skin. "What?" "Your grandmother left a personal property memorandum with the estate papers. Specific items, specific names." He looked toward the dark water, then back at me. "The locket was left to you." Her note said, "For Amelia, and someday for her daughter if she wishes." I could not speak. All those months after Grandma died, Mom had said the jewelry was being sorted. Vanessa had mentioned wanting something meaningful for the wedding. I had not asked. I had been trained too well not to ask. "Mom gave it to her?" I said. Dad's jaw tightened. "Your mother said Ruth would have wanted Vanessa to have something old for the ceremony." Something old, a tradition, a photograph, a perfect bridal detail. Not my grandmother's written wish, not my daughter's future memory, not mine. "I found out this afternoon," Dad said. "I made Vanessa return it before dinner." "She knew?" "She knew after I showed her the document. And she still didn't tell me." Dad closed his eyes briefly. "No." The porch felt colder. Inside, people were laughing over dessert. My sister was glowing beneath chandeliers, while I stood outside holding a piece of my grandmother that had almost been used to decorate another lie. Dad took a breath. "There's more." I looked up. "The Vermont cabin," he said. "Ruth left it to me. I had planned to put it into my living trust and divide its value between you and Vanessa later." I remember that cabin. Pine floors, chipped mugs, the lake behind the trees, Grandma Ruth teaching me to make blueberry biscuits at the counter. Vanessa had visited when photos were useful. I had visited when Grandma could no longer climb the porch steps alone. Dad's voice roughened. "I'm changing the trust. The cabin will go to you. After you, to Lily, if that's what you want." "Dad, you don't have to do that because of tonight." "This isn't because of tonight," he said. "Tonight only made it impossible to keep lying to myself." He looked at the locket in my hand. "For 30 years, this family asked you to make yourself smaller so Vanessa could seem brighter. I called it keeping peace. It was cowardice." The word stood between us, plain and heavy. I wanted to forgive him immediately because he was my father, and I had loved him through every silence. But love did not erase the cost of being left unprotected. So I only closed my fingers around Grandma Ruth's locket. For the first time that night, something stolen had come back to me. Ryan's message arrived while I was still standing on the porch with Dad. A screenshot, then another, then a third. I opened the first one and saw Jenna Whitaker's name at the top of an email thread. She had meant to send Ryan the final dinner menu because Lily had a mild strawberry allergy. Instead, in the rush of managing a dozen wedding details, she had attached the updated processional and seating chart. My eyes found Lily's name first. Replace Lily Parker with Harper Ellison. Below it, in smaller notes, was a line that made my hand go cold. Bride requests no discussion at dinner. Diane will manage Amelia. Dad leaned closer and read it with me. His face hardened. Then I opened the next screenshot. Seat Parker family away from Ellison main table due to family instability. For a moment, I heard nothing. Not the lake, not the music, not the laughter leaking through the doors. Family instability. Those two words explained the careful looks I had felt all evening. The polite distance from Grant's cousins. The way one woman had asked Ryan whether travel had been difficult, while glancing at me as if waiting for a scene. Vanessa had not only removed my daughter, she had prepared the room to doubt me before I arrived. Dad whispered, "Amelia." I almost walked inside. I could see it clearly. Me standing under those chandeliers, holding up the phone, asking Vanessa, how dare she? I could see Diane lowering her voice, asking me not to embarrass myself. I could see every guest turning. I could see Vanessa's eyes filling at just the right moment. And then the story would become exactly what she had written. Unstable, emotional, difficult. Ryan appeared at the porch door before I moved. He must have known me well enough to come quickly. "I sent everything," he said. "Jenna's attachments, timestamps, all of it." And I showed him the second note, even though he had already seen it. His jaw tightened. "That is not a mistake. That is a setup. I want to go in there. I know. I want her to say it to my face. I know." His voice stayed low, steady, built like a handrail. "But don't let them use your pain as evidence for their lie." The sentence stopped me harder than any raised voice could have. Dad nodded. "Ryan's right. We keep this. We document it. We don't give Vanessa the scene she prepared for." My fingers shook around the phone, but my mind became strangely clear. All my life, I had tried to prove I was not what my mother and sister called me. Not dramatic, not difficult, not too sensitive. I had defended myself in the language of people who never intended to acquit me. That night, I stopped arguing for permission to be believed. I saved the screenshots. Ryan forwarded the email to a private account. Dad took photos of the screen with his own phone. Inside, Vanessa was still smiling at tables she had arranged around a lie. Outside, on the porch, we finally had the shape of the truth. I did not swallow my anger. I put it somewhere colder, somewhere it could wait without losing its edge. Dad did not storm into the dining room. That mattered. He straightened his jacket, handed his phone back to me, and stood for a moment with his eyes on the dark lake. Then he turned toward the doors with the tired dignity of a man who had finally run out of excuses. "Dad," I said, "you don't have to do this in front of everyone." He looked at me gently. "That's what I've told myself for 30 years. Ryan came to stand beside me. Through the glass, I could see Vanessa laughing with one hand on Grant's sleeve. Diane sat near Patricia Ellison, composed and smiling, as if the evening had gone exactly as planned. Dad opened the door. The music and candlelight swallowed him at first. He walked to the head table, not fast, not angry, not dramatic. Just certain. That certainty changed the room before he said a word. Conversations thinned. Silverware paused. Grant looked up. Vanessa's smile held, then tightened. Diane saw Dad's face and rose halfway from her chair. "Robert?" He did not look at her first. He looked at Lily. My daughter sat beside Ryan's empty chair, carefully tearing a dinner roll into tiny pieces. The daisy clip was still in her hair. Then Dad faced the room. "I won't take long," he said. His voice was quiet, but it carried. The Moreau family has always been very good at moving difficult conversations behind closed doors. We call it manners. Sometimes we call it peace. Tonight, I'm done calling it that. Diane stepped closer. "Robert, this is not the time." Dad turned to her. It was never the time when Amelia was the one being hurt. The room went still. Vanessa's face drained of color. Dad continued. 4 months ago, my granddaughter Lily was asked to be the flower girl. She practiced. Her parents bought the dress Vanessa requested. She came here today believing adults keep their promises. I saw Patricia Ellison look from Dad to Harper, then to Lily. "Tonight," Dad said, Lily learned in a parking lot that she had been replaced. Not because of anything she did, not because anyone had the decency to warn her, but because the adults involved wanted to avoid an uncomfortable phone call. Grant slowly turned toward Vanessa. Diane's voice dropped to a warning whisper. "Robert?" "No," he said. "I've listened to that tone long enough." He looked at Vanessa then, and the sadness in his face hurt more than anger would have. "Lily is your niece. Amelia is your sister. They deserved honesty." Patricia rose, one hand resting lightly on the table. "I need to be clear," she said, her voice controlled but sharp. "If I had known a child had already been promised that role, I would never have allowed Harper to replace her. Children should not pay for adults avoiding discomfort." There it was. The excuse Vanessa had hidden behind collapsed in one sentence. Harper's mother pulled the little girl closer, confused but protective. Harper only blinked, too young to understand the room changing around her. Vanessa opened her mouth, but no perfect sentence came out. Dad did not mention the locket. He did not mention the cabin. He did not humiliate her with every piece of evidence. That restraint made it worse. He had said enough for everyone to understand the shape of what had happened, and not enough for Vanessa to play victim. Diane sat down slowly, her face pale beneath her makeup. For once, my mother had no softer version ready. Vanessa found me near the side hallway after dessert. Staff rolled silver carts toward the kitchen, and the dining room candlelight no longer softened her face. "Amelia," she said. I stopped. Ryan was with Lily near the coat room, helping her choose a sticker from a basket the inn kept for children. Dad stood a few yards away, close enough to witness, far enough not to speak for me. Vanessa smoothed her ivory dress. "Tonight got out of hand." "No," I said. "Tonight finally got said out loud." Her mouth tightened. "You have no idea what this weekend has been like. Patricia has expectations. And Lily noticed the basket in another child's hands. She's 6. That is not a defense. That is why it mattered." Vanessa glanced toward the dining room. "Harper is innocent." "I know. That's why I never blamed her." The answer irritated her. She had expected me to be unreasonable. She needed me to be. "I was trying to keep things smooth," she said. "For whom?" "For everyone." "No, for you." Her eyes flashed. "You always turn one decision into a moral trial." The old habit rose in me. Soften my voice, make my pain smaller. Then I saw Lily in the parking lot, asking whether she had walked wrong. "You didn't make one decision," I said. "You made a promise to my daughter. You let her practice for months. You let me buy the dress you specified. Then you erased her and asked Mom to manage me like a problem." Vanessa's face changed. So she knew I knew. I pulled out my phone and showed her the screenshot. "Replace Lily Parker with Harper Ellison. Diane will manage Amelia." Family instability. The last 2 words made her swallow. "You weren't just avoiding an uncomfortable conversation," I said. "You were preparing strangers to doubt me before I walked in." "That note was not meant for me to see," I finished. "I believe that." For once, she had nothing graceful ready. "Lily may not remember every detail," I said, "but she will remember how small she felt." Vanessa whispered, "I'm under so much pressure." So was I, for 30 years. The difference is, I didn't hand that pressure to a child and call it elegance. At the end of the hall, Mom had appeared. She stopped when she heard me. "From now on," I said, "anything involving my daughter, reputation, or Grandma Ruth's property goes in writing." No more hallway explanations. No more mom translating selfishness into peace. Her eyes filled, but I no longer trusted tears that arrived only after evidence. I walked past her without waiting for an apology. For once, I did not leave defeated. I left because there was nothing left for her to control. Ryan found the signature at 7:18 the next morning. I remember the time because Lily was sitting cross-legged on the hotel carpet, eating dry cereal from a paper cup while I steamed the hem of her dress. Outside, Vermont looked clean and innocent, all pale sun and lake mist, as if the night before had not happened. Ryan was at the desk with his laptop open, reviewing the files Jenna had sent after her mistake. His face changed. "Amelia," he said. I turned off the steamer. "What?" He rotated the laptop toward me. It was a venue use form for a welcome brunch at Grandma Ruth's cabin. My name was printed near the bottom, Amelia Parker. Below it was an electronic signature. I stared at it, waiting for my brain to make sense of what my eyes already knew. "I never signed that." "I know," Ryan said. "Look at the email." The signing address was close to mine, but wrong. One extra letter. Easy to miss if someone wanted it missed. For a moment, the room felt airless. Vanessa had not only borrowed my daughter's joy and tried to borrow my reputation. Someone had used my name to make the cabin available as part of her wedding weekend. Ryan sent everything to Dad. Dad called the family attorney within minutes. The advice came back clear. Save every file, preserve the email trail, do not alter the document, and do not create a public scene before more facts were secured. Public scene. That was exactly what Vanessa would need from me. One outburst, one raised voice, one dramatic entrance into the bridal suite, and she could point to the note and say, "See? Family instability." So I did not go looking for her. I zipped Lily into her ivory dress instead. She stood very still while I fastened the tiny buttons. The daisy clip was back in her hair, though her excitement had become careful overnight. A knock came at the door. Vanessa stood there alone. No mom, no bridesmaids, no photographer to capture her being generous. Her makeup was done, but her face looked tired in a way powder could not hide. "Can I speak to Lily?" she asked. Ryan moved closer to our daughter, but I nodded once. Vanessa knelt so she was eye level with Lily. "Lily," she said, and her voice cracked around the name. "Aunt Vanessa hurt your feelings yesterday. That was my fault. You did not do anything wrong." Lily looked at me. I did not answer for her. Vanessa swallowed. "You walked perfectly. You practiced hard. I should have called your mom, and I should have talked to you." The room stayed quiet. Then Lily asked, "Were you mad at me?" Vanessa's eyes filled. "No, sweetheart. Never." That was not enough to fix it. But it was the sentence Lily needed. Vanessa held out a white peony tied with satin ribbon. "If you want to, you can walk with the bridesmaids and carry this. Harper will still have the basket because this isn't her fault either. But there is room for you." Lily took a long breath, then looked at me again. "What do you want?" I asked. She touched the ribbon. "I still want to walk." So I nodded. Not for Vanessa. For the little girl who had practiced believing she belonged. The chapel at Willowmere sat close enough to the lake that sunlight trembled across the floorboards. White flowers climbed the end of each pew. A string quartet played near the front. Guests whispered behind programs printed on thick cream paper. Everything looked expensive, delicate, and untouched. But nothing was untouched anymore. Ryan sat beside me, his hand covering mine. Dad was on my other side, quiet in a way that no longer felt absent. He kept his eyes on the aisle, waiting for Lily, as if seeing her would be a privilege he intended not to waste. Mom sat 2 rows ahead with her spine straight, her hands folded tightly over her clutch. She had not spoken to me that morning. Maybe she was angry. Maybe she was embarrassed. Maybe she was still deciding how to turn consequences into disrespect. I did not care. For the first time in my life, my mother's silence did not feel like a sentence I had to serve. The music shifted. Harper appeared first with a basket. She was sweet and careful, dropping pale petals one by one. Her mother smiled at her through tears. Patricia Ellison watched with a softness I had not seen the night before. Then the bridesmaids began walking, and there was Lily. She held the white peony with both hands. The ribbon trailed against her dress. Her daisy clip sat above her left ear, bright and stubborn. My daughter did not rush. She did not look around for permission. She walked exactly the way she had practiced in our hallway back home. Step by small step, chin lifted, shoulders brave. For 4 months, she had trained for a promise adults broke. Still, she kept her part of it. When she reached our row, she turned her head. Our eyes met. I smiled before the tears came. Ryan squeezed my hand. Dad lifted his palm slightly. Not a wave, not a spectacle, just a grandfather telling a child, "I see you." Lily smiled back. Not the wild, sparkling smile from before Vermont. This one was quieter, older than it should have been. But it was hers, and no one had taken it. Across the aisle, Patricia looked toward me and gave the smallest nod. It was not apology exactly, but it was acknowledgement. In old families like hers, acknowledgement could weigh more than speeches. Then Vanessa appeared at the chapel doors. She was beautiful. Of course she was. Lace sleeves, smooth veil, pearls at her ears. Every detail was flawless. But perfection had lost its power once everyone knew what it had cost. Grant turned to watch her walk toward him. He smiled, but not blindly. His eyes carried questions no wedding vow could erase in one afternoon. Mom dabbed at the corner of her eye. I wondered whether she was crying for Vanessa's almost ruined image or for the family story she could no longer manage. Dad did not look away from Lily until she sat safely with Ryan's sister near the front. The ceremony continued. Promises were spoken, rings exchanged. Guests laughed gently when the officiant made a small joke about Vermont weather. The world did not stop for my daughter's hurt. That used to make me feel powerless. Now, it made me understand something sharper. Justice does not always arrive as thunder. Sometimes it sits in the front pew, wearing an ivory dress, holding a peony, proving that dignity can survive what cruelty tried to stage. Lily did not get the basket back, but the truth had walked with her. The Monday after the wedding, Dad's attorney sent the preservation notice. It went to Vanessa, Mom, Jenna Whitaker, and Willowmere Lake Inn. Every chart, cabin form, signature log, and message about Lily's role had to be saved. Nothing deleted, nothing corrected. For once, the Monroe family could not solve a problem by lowering its voice. Mom called that afternoon. "I hope you understand what your father has done," she said. "He documented what embarrassed this family," I answered. "I only wanted the weekend to be peaceful. Peace that cost my daughter's dignity is not peace. It is injustice with better manners." Within 2 weeks, Dad removed Mom from decisions involving Grandma Ruth's estate papers. The locket stayed with me. He updated his living trust so the Vermont cabin would pass to me, and after me, to Lily. Vanessa did not lose everything. She lost the assumption that the family would keep bending around her. Patricia Ellison remained distant. Grant stayed married to Vanessa, yet his admiration had changed. 3 weeks later, Vanessa called. No mom speaking for her. No polished email. No audience. I was a coward, she said. I cared more about looking like I belonged than about what I did to Lily. I sat on the back step while Lily drew chalk flowers. I'm sorry, Vanessa whispered. I watched my daughter color a daisy. An apology is a beginning, Vanessa. It is not a receipt that buys forgiveness. She cried quietly. This time, I did not rush to comfort her. Dad began calling every Thursday. At first, the calls were clumsy. Then one night he said, I'm sorry I made you be brave alone. That was the apology I had needed longer than I knew. A cardinal visited Dad's feeder, and Lily named it Gerald. Dad mailed her a printed photo in an envelope with her name across the front. She kept it like treasure. One summer morning, I wore Grandma Ruth's locket while Lily ate cereal. Can I wear it someday? She asked. Yes, I said. Not because it is expensive, because it belongs with people who keep memories with love. Lily only needed to know this. When adults broke a promise to her, someone stood up and told the truth. In life, the person called too sensitive is often the one who has been asked to endure too much. Keeping family together should never mean asking the kindest person to stay silent the longest. If this story touched you, please leave a like for Revenge Glow. Share your thoughts in the comments and tell us where you're listening from. Thank you for staying until the end. Wishing you health, peace, and strength. See you again in the next story on Revenge Glow.